So, what is yoga? Continuing to consider some of the things that yoga takes for granted, or things that yoga assumes that we are familiar with. Remembering that yoga did not emerge in a vacuum, but in a milieu of very lively and vibrant philosophical investigation, inquiry, and discussion that had been going on for many, many generations. So another thing that yoga assumes we are familiar with is the basic Vedic idea of the aims of life, or the purpose of life, or the meaning of life, known in Sanskrit as the Puruṣārthāḥ. Purusha, we've come across this word before, meaning the enabling consciousness or the animating consciousness. Purusha also means person. You can see the influence of the Sanskrit through to the English word person, conscious person. Artha means the means, the aim, the purpose, the intent. So the Puruṣārthāḥ basically means the means, the purpose, the intent, the orientation of Purusha, of a conscious human being. And in the Indian system, there are 4 Puruṣārthāḥ, 4 aims of life. What's life about? The Indian system gives us an answer with 4 parts. Artha, Kāma, Dharma, Mokṣa. So Artha, we've already seen this word, Puruṣārthāḥ. This means the means. So the idea is when you're alive, in order to maintain your life, you need to have physical, material means. So Artha means your food, your livelihood, your shelter. The basic necessities of material life. The material means, we might say. Livelihood. Kāma, you've probably seen this word before. It's one of the Sanskrit words, I think, that is probably among the top 10 most familiar words, because most people have heard of this Sanskrit text called the Kāma Sutra, yes? Now, what does Kāma mean? It doesn't mean sex or sexual positions. What Kāma means is pleasure and enjoyment. So Kāma Sutra is not just about sexual positions. Kāma Sutra is about how to live an aesthetic life. It's got all sorts of things to do with it. It's perhaps the book that most people have heard of, but the fewest people have read. But Kāma is about enjoyment. And it's interesting to note, in the Indian system, when you're a human being, it is your duty to enjoy life. Life is supposed to be enjoyed. Is it not an amazing thing to be alive? To be able to feel, to see, to hear? The idea is that life is full of wonder. Of course, life involves difficulty and challenging times and pain and suffering. That's part of the deal. But it also involves lots of wonder and beauty. And the idea is we should enjoy our life. In yoga, the idea, they talk about the real, like the finer purpose of life is threefold. One's enjoyment, one's education, and one's emancipation. Ultimate freedom. But the idea is that you should live in such a way that you learn, and we learn best when we're enjoying ourselves. Of course, troubling times can prompt learning. But yoga is about skillfulness and efficiency. So the idea is, if I want to make steady, incremental progress, if I want to keep uncovering myself, keep recovering who I really am, I really need to learn how to learn from the good times as well as the challenging times. So, 4 aims of life: material well-being, enjoyments, pleasure. Then we have this word, very important word in the Indian tradition, very important word in yoga, Dharma. Try saying Dharma. Now this D here, this Sanskrit D is with the tongue right on the teeth, it's a dental sound, and this H indicates this is an aspirated sound, so it makes more air come out. So Dharma, Dharma. If I put my hand in front, if I say the word Dana, no aspiration, but if I say Dharma, it's a little explosion of breath out, Dharma. And Dharma, there's no real English translation. Sometimes it's rendered as law, duty, righteousness. But the way that the more, let's say, root meaning is that which supports. It also, as a noun, refers to the essential quality of something. The idea is, if we can act essentially, if we can act as the expression of our true self, then we will bring our actions into harmony, so they will support the well-being of the whole. Dharma is the action that supports the well-being of the whole. Mokṣa means freedom or liberation. So the idea of yoga is to become free. Now what does that mean, to become free? It can sound kind of out there, but it really is very, very practical. And the question is, am I a free agent? Am I free to act unimpeded according to my conscience? Or am I sometimes bullied, dominated, or even enslaved by my conditioned ideas? Do I sometimes shrink back from what my heart and soul and conscience are asking me to do because my mind has other ideas that I am somehow trapped inside or bound to? Am I free to act from my conscience? Or am I really just acting out of various compulsions that are the effect of my accumulated and accrued conditionings? So what I've noticed is that oftentimes I do things and it's not because of my free will. It's not because of my conscious choice or my soul's longing. Sometimes I do things because I think I should. For example, so the idea in yoga is to become free. Now, sometimes people think, oh, let me focus on moksha. Let me leave the world aside and let me focus on becoming free, and let me meditate my head off so I can become free, for example. But one of my Sanskrit teachers, gurus, said a very beautiful thing. He says, forget about moksha. Forget about freedom, ultimate liberation. Focus on Dharma. Make your Artha and your Kāma Dharma, and then moksha will naturally follow. So, make our Artha and Kāma support Dharma. Make them be in tune with Dharma, and then naturally it will lead to moksha. So, the way I make my living, the way I interact with the necessities of life, can I make it dharmic? What does that mean? Taking what I need with gratitude and respect, no more. Making my livelihood in a way that respects the collective, the whole. Kāma, how do I enjoy myself? How do I seek pleasure? Can I do that in a way that is also respectful, that fosters well-being in the whole? Now, I was at a conference in India a few years ago, and one man said, and one of the speakers said something that it really landed with me, and he said, we talk about Dharma, but we're not qualified to talk about Dharma because we all live in an adharmic society. Adharmic means other than dharmic, because our society is based on the buying and selling and trading of that which Mother Nature gives freely. So we're all abiding in a criminal system. So we're not really qualified to talk about Dharma. However, we do talk about Dharma. And yoga is very practical. So the idea is we just have to do our best. But doing our best doesn't mean settling and giving up. It means constantly inquiring. And as we keep inquiring, we may revise our ideas about what is the appropriate way to act. And that may refine over time. And when we recognize that perhaps what we used to think was a good idea isn't a good idea, it's not that we condemn ourselves for doing it that way in the past. Rather, we give gratitude that now we have seen, now we have noticed. And having noticed, we're empowered to make a shift and do something in a different way. So Artha, Kāma, Dharma and Mokṣa, the four aims of life. And yoga assumes a familiarity with this. The aim of yoga is also to become free from our conditioned ideas, and to be able to act as an emissary of clear, unimpeded, pure conscious awareness. The idea is that once we become more and more attuned, when we become established in a state of true harmony, our actions will only spread harmony. In the Yoga Sutra, there's this very beautiful description. Patanjali, in the final chapter, talks about the established yogi's awareness reaching this state of Dharma Mekha Samadhi. Now, Mekha is a cloud. So Patanjali says that when the yogin becomes established, that person's actions are like a rain cloud of Dharma. And the idea is that almost automatically, that person will act in accord with Dharma. That person's actions will spread this well-being of the whole. And they say that one can develop, or one can invite a state of awareness. One state of awareness can become so clear, so unimpeded by ideas, that one can act spontaneously in this way, with the same reflexivity that, say for example, you're walking out one morning, it's dark, and you cannot see, but there are cobwebs along your path. Now, if those cobwebs are at the level of your legs and you're wearing some thick trousers in a cold winter's day, you might walk through the cobwebs and not even notice that you've disturbed the cobweb. But if the cobweb happens to be at the level of your eye, when the cobweb comes to your eye, what happens? Reflexively, spontaneously, instantaneously, the eye closes. It does an appropriate response to protect the well-being of the whole. Now, some cavilling person could say, well, is it respecting the well-being of the spider? The point is that it's protecting the well-being of the eye, and the spider's going to be okay. But the eyelids close faster than thought, faster than any idea. It's not like we see the cobweb and think, oh, or we feel the cobweb on the eye and think, oh, cobweb on eye close. It's not like a thought process, it just happens. And the idea is that the yogi's awareness comes to that same state of clarity. Eventually, along the way, this may be a long way, a whole lifetime, many lifetimes, who knows? But along the way, when we make an effort to make our Artha and our Kāma Dharma, we do become freer and freer. We become more attuned to our conscience. We become more unimpeded in the way that our subtler awareness can inform the way we engage and respond to life. So the four Puruṣārthāḥ, another kind of key foundational idea in the Indian system that yoga works with.